everybody. Let me make sure that it's actually going to record. There it is. And I've also posted in the chat a link to my website as well as the pre-recorded webinars that you have access to at all times. So we're going to dive in right now. So if you do have a question, I have a second computer open with the number of people that are here. It's easiest if you type into the chat, and then we'll have open Q&A at the very end. So periodically I'll check over on the questions and see if there's anything I can answer right then, or I'll let you know if we're going to come back to it. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So right now I'm actually in two different Teams apps. I'm recording this in the Teams web app, but I'm actually going to demonstrate how to do all this from the desktop version. I recommend using the desktop version because it does have a little bit more functionality, but really there's only one difference, and that is whether or not you can blur your background in a Teams meeting, and we'll cover that in 201. So when you log in, when you open Teams, you're going to see the teams that you are a part of or the teams that you yourself have created. Now, I believe that your administration is going to be creating your teams for you, and based on your rosters, your students will already be in there for you. But I think it's still important to know how to create these teams and add people on your own, just in case you find that need. So up in the upper right corner, we're going to be creating a team. Now, what is a team? So you might be familiar with different Microsoft apps like OneDrive or SharePoint, and Teams actually takes all of that and puts it into one location. So Teams is built on SharePoint. Each team has its own SharePoint site, which can be used for more collaboration. But what I love about Teams is you don't actually have to leave Teams to do much. Everything can be done from right within this app. And if you'll notice around the outside, you'll notice this purple color. That's Teams color. Microsoft color codes all of their apps. So when you're seeing purple, you're seeing Teams. So pay attention as we go through to the color that's on the screen. So what we want to do first is we're going to click the button upper right, join or create a team. And you'll notice once I've done that, up in the upper left corner, I can either create or I can join with a code. I'm going to come back to this one, the join with a code, a little bit later. But we're just going to click first to create our team. And once you click, you have a choice of 4 different types. Because we're working for educators here, we're going to be sticking to the classroom. But you also are probably part of a PLC. So your PLC might wish to have a team. Your staff at your school might wish to have a full staff team. And then you probably have other groups that really don't fit the other 3. So your yearbook staff, sports clubs, after school programs, those could all have their own team as well. And really the big difference in each of these is which OneNote notebook is included, if there is one. So we're going to be creating a class team. So we just click on class, and then we just need to give it a name. I'll say at the get-go here, there's no one way to do this. There's no right, there's no wrong. So there's really not like a template that I can provide to you to say this is a great way to do it, because it's so personal. But for naming conventions, it's really up to you how you're going to name it. Again, if your teams are being created by your administration, it's probably already going to be named for you. But if you are a pre-K grade 5, you have self-contained class, it's going to be pretty simple. It's probably going to be your name. If you teach middle and high school, then you probably are going to have a team for each of your periods. So you might have something like Wensler period 2. So once you've given the name, I'm going to leave it as it is on the screen. It's just easy. It doesn't matter what the name is, because the name is going to just be the name that you can change at any time should you find yourself needing to change the name. When you've got that done, you can describe what the team is. It's optional. And then you just click next. And then you have the option right now to start adding students. Now, again, since your admin is going to be creating this, your students are going to be automatically put into your team based on the roster for the year. But you might need to add a student once in a while, depending on how often your administration is able to update rosters. So that's a conversation between you and your administration, but this is how you do it. You could also add additional teachers. So if you have a para in your class, if you have a student teacher in your class, if you are co-teaching, you can add other teachers as well. So it's up to you if you want other teachers in your available to see your classes and to see everything that's going on. Out in St. Louis, for example, the principal is added to every single classroom team so that the principal can come in and take a look at what's going on in each class without having to go ask for permission to join. So it's part of their requirements. So right now I'm just going to add 3 fake students to my class. And when I've done that, I click add. And I'll know it's finished because then the close button will become available to click, and I click close and it's going to drop me right into my class. So this is what it really looks like. So let's take a walk around what you're seeing here. On the left-hand side is what I call the universal. So when I'm talking, you see I have a chat up here. Actually, that's you guys. It's actually recording your chat, and I'm able to see it on this screen as well. So you'll notice I've got 2 chat messages that just got posted. But if I click on chat, I'm not just going to see the chat we are currently having here. Hold on one second.
Okay.
What?
I don't know what I'm doing.
Are you in a meeting?
All right, there we go. So what I'm seeing here is not just this chat that we're currently in, but I'm seeing all of the chats in all of the teams that you saw when I logged in. This is all of those chats that I've had with people and with groups. It gets a little overwhelming because it's all the way back from last year. It is searchable. We'll go over that later. But that's the universal. If I click activity, I'm going to see all the activity across all of those teams that I am a part of. Again, it gets a little overwhelming. Everything is searchable though in Teams, so you don't have to try to scroll to find it. I have assignments here, and that's because I have classroom teams. If I had no class teams, if I only had staff, PLC, or other, I may not even see assignments on my universal side, and that's okay. This calendar here is my Outlook calendar. So it's tied in directly to Outlook. And that's going to be important when we do 201 and we talk about how to host meetings. So it's linked automatically to your Outlook calendar. If your district is subscribing to Microsoft telephony, you can even make and receive phone calls on your computer. You don't need a desk phone. You don't need a cell phone. So again, that's entirely up to you and your district, whether that is there. So if you don't see calls, that's okay as well. And then you also have access to all of the files that you are currently working in. I can even get to my OneDrive. Remember I said, take a look, keep an eye on the color here, and that Teams is purple. I can get to OneDrive and I haven't left Teams yet. So all of the files that have been shared with me or that I have created are here, which makes it really nice. I don't have to go out and open a web tab anymore. So I'm going to click on Teams now, and I'm just right back in that team that we created. So this is the universal side. Here on the left in the white column, that's our channel lineup. Microsoft has broken up each team into what they're calling channels. I kind of think of it as a file cabinet. So the team itself, this team that I created here, is kind of like the cabinet. And then the channels are kind of like the drawers in the file cabinet. So that's kind of helps me visualize how I'm organizing my team. If I look at the way I organize my file cabinet, you're automatically given one channel, the general channel. You can add additional channels, and I'll show you how to do that, and we'll get some ideas as to what types of channels you might want to create. But for now, we're going to focus on the general channel, because here in the middle, the big part of all of this is the collaboration space. This is where your work is actually happening. This is where you're communicating with your students. So you'll notice I've created this team, and it gives me some ideas of what I might wish to do first. I can upload my class materials to my team, my syllabus, my classroom expectations, lab etiquette, whatever it is that you want for your students to see and not edit. Read only goes in class materials. So if I just click on class materials, it's just going to open, kind of looks like something from your OneDrive, and it actually is in your OneDrive. So here it brought me over to our Files tab, and I'm given this folder. So the class materials folder, again, when you create a class team, this is automatic. It's not something you have to think about. And when I click on that folder, this is where all my read-only files go. So my students are able to see everything that I post here, but they can't change anything that's here. So they can download files, they can read files, they cannot change the files or delete these files. So anything you put in class materials is read only. You're the only one who can change anything. So you could start with uploading your class materials. That could be the first place you start. You'll also notice there's a Find Help and Training button. I'm going to click on that. Microsoft never leaves you hanging. So they're always going to provide tons and thousands of ways to find help. So just by clicking that, you can see that you can choose general help. You can look at how to create different teams, remote learning. Hey, that's something that we're probably all looking at right now. If you're a school leader, here are some IT guides and some administrative guides to help you. So that's by topic. You can search for training. So if I'm not available for any reason and you need to get training, of course, now it would never be right if everything just worked the way it was supposed to. It wouldn't be any fun. There should be a whole bunch of training topics here, but I'll show you where else to get them as well. Let's come back in. All right, so you can find help in training. There's also in the universal, down at the bottom, there's this help button. And so you can also access this later by clicking on help, and you can look at the topics, different training, what's new. If you have a problem, here's where you report any issues that you're having. And Microsoft has been very diligent with getting back to people quickly, because we know how important it is to get to, especially to our teachers right now. If you have a suggestion for a way to improve Teams, Microsoft has been listening. Teams is 3 years old, and it has changed almost 100% from when it started. And that's because educators are giving feedback. So they do listen to you. It's very important to suggest things that you think would be better. So here we are. Again, you can start with one of these two. We're going to start actually looking at communication, how we communicate. So this is called the Post tab. Across the top here, we have tabs. Again, kind of like, here's the drawer in the file cabinet. Here are the individual file folders. That's kind of the way, again, I like metaphor. So that's the way I think about it. So the Post tab is where you're going to communicate with your students. And it's very simple. It says start a new conversation. Okay, so I'm just going to type a message and hit the enter key. And that's exactly what my students are going to see. What you see on the screen is what your students see. So then they know that there's a welcome message. And your students can click the reply button and they can respond back to you, and then you see their response. So two-way communication, instant communication. What I'd love to see for you is that email drops significantly, because email is, I laugh, email is so 20th century. And your students are used to instant communication, text messaging, etc. And you probably don't want to give them your cell phone number. So this is instant messaging, much more efficient use of your time. Now, it does say also here that you can type @ to mention someone. So Microsoft has this cool feature called the @ mention. And what that does is it allows you to notify a person, a couple of people, an entire team, that there's a message for them in their team. And it's really easy to do. You simply type the @ symbol. Notice when I did that my 3 students who are in my class showed up as suggestions for who I might want to message. So all I have to do is click the name of the student. When I did that, it turned blue. That tells me that I was successful, that it's an @ mention. If you simply do @ and then put the space bar and then type somebody, notice nothing happened. That's because you simply typed the @ symbol and someone's name. So that's not an @ mention, that's just typing. So if I want to mention someone, I have to not put the space in. I choose the student or students. I'll do all 3 in this case, so that all 3 of these students are going to get, this one didn't do it. Let's try that again. Now I'm typing over myself. Okay, it's not working today. Typing, there we go. All right, we'll do the same student done twice. That's probably not a good idea. And 2, there we go. So I'm going to notify these 2 students. I'm going to just type, again, my message, whatever my message is. So new student comes to class, you can do an @ mention. And when I hit enter, it looks the same to me, but each of these 2 students got this little purple banner that showed up on their computer screen that said, hey, there's a message for you. They also got an email that said your friends in your team are trying to meet with you or trying to get to you. So they're getting an email notification as well as a banner right on their desktop that says, hey, someone sent you a message. So that notifies them that they need to come inside the team and check it out. And that only happens if you do the @ mention. When I typed welcome, nobody got a message that there was a message here. They would have to just come in and see the message. So it depends. If it's a very important message to give, you'd probably want to notify people that it's there. But I can even do more than simply notify individuals. I can do what's called an @ mention of the whole team. I type the @ symbol and then I start typing the name of the whole team. So notice my suggestions changed once I started typing my name. So now everybody in the team is going to get this message. They're going to get a purple notification here at the bottom right of their screen. And they're going to get an email that says your colleagues, your friends are trying to reach you. So when you do a team @ mention, all members of the team, all of your students get the same notice. So a great way to keep in touch and tell your kids, hey, log in and check this out. You'll notice also if I just kind of hover my mouse over these messages that these little emoticons appear. These are reactions. Your students are used to doing this. They do it on all the time on their Instagram and Facebook. Well, they don't do Facebook anymore, but they do this all the time to each other. They like each other's things. They love them. They laugh. They get surprised. So you can use these as a way to make sure that your students are actually seeing your messages. Because, let's face it, there's really not a way to know everybody saw your message. You have to assume they did, but you can ask them, hey, give me a thumbs up that you've read this. And all they have to do is click it. And so now one person has reacted. And when I hover over that reaction, it tells me who it is. So I can double check that all of my students have seen this message. So if it's something important, ask them to react to it. They'll know how to do that. Within Microsoft, there is also these ellipses. Now the ellipses are really important because okay, I do have a couple of questions and I'll come back to them in just a second. So thank you, Susie and Brian. Let me come right back to those 2 questions. Hold on. Whenever you see ellipses in Microsoft, it means there's more to do. So whenever you see, no matter where you are in Microsoft, if you see ellipses, click it and see what else you can do. Before I do that, I want to answer those 2 questions. Can you @message a whole group? Yes, you can. Again, your whole group is called a team. So you do the @ and then you type the name of the team. You can't @message. So if I have another team I can't message them from this team. I have to go into the other team to message that team. Your teams are totally separate. They don't overlap in any way. So the other question was, can students message others in another class? No, they can't. So you can only post messages within the team. You can't go out of the team. If you want to go out of the team, you have to go out of the team. So I hope that answers. How do you avoid distracting messaging? Very good question. You can mute your students. So if they're being, if they're being kids, yeah, you can mute them, and I'll show you how to do that when we get into the managing of the class. So yes, they will at the beginning. They'll think it's kind of funny. The novelty wears off. I've done this for many, many, many years. I've been a hybrid teacher for almost 15 years. The novelty wears off very quickly, and they stop doing the messaging, and then you get the one or two who continue. You just mute them and they can never post again. It's kind of funny. Can you delete messages? Yes, you can. Here we go. So remember, I said when I hover, I get the reactions and then those ellipses. If I click on the ellipses, there are some things I can do with these messages. I can save this message. So if this is important and I want to come back to it without having to search and scroll, I click save. Notice where it's saved. It's way up here under my profile picture. So we'll be looking at that later. I'm going to come back and click on the ellipses. I can edit the message. So if I made a typo, which often happens, I can edit it before anyone sees it. Just click edit. Then I can come back. I can edit. I click the check mark, and then it reposts the new version. Here I can delete the message. Now it's gone. My reply is still there, but the message is gone. Oops, didn't mean to do that. I can undo it and the message comes right back. So you can delete your posts. And when we do the class management, you can decide if you want your students to do that as well. So we'll look at that a little bit later. And so, yes, Euphemia, we will definitely come back and look at, are there special permissions? Yes, that's a little bit later as we get to the end of this session. So we've looked at how to do simple postings, how students will respond. And so when you're responding to each other in a team, it's very helpful for two things. Make sure if you are answering or responding to someone that you use reply. Don't start a whole new message. When you hit reply, it keeps the conversation all grouped together. Notice each of these is a totally separate posting. So if each of your students starts a new message, they're answering a question, you've posed a question, how was your day today? And they all post their new message, it's hard to figure out what they're responding to. So train your students. If you're responding, click reply. If it's a brand new message, a new question, a new thought, a new concept, then start a new conversation. Otherwise, keep your conversations connected to each other by using the reply button. You might have also noticed here that when I did, this was a full team notification. So all of my students got notified. You'll notice this little red button showed up here. So that tells me later, if I forgot what this means, I can hover over my little red dot and it says the entire team was sent this notification. Hey, come check this out. So you'll know that every once in a while, you'll see something different pop over here. I'm going to show you another one in just a sec. So very simple, easy communication, but there's even more that I could do. You've probably noticed down below here that there are some icons that I've got. Yours might be different, and that's totally okay. We're going to start here on the format button, which is the A with the paintbrush. So when I click into it, notice this looks a whole lot more like an email now. So here you can add your subject. So for example, first day of class. And then you can start your conversation. Same thing that you did up here. You can still use the @ mentions. You're just given a few more formatting options. So you get all your rich text formatting, including highlighting, choosing your font color, making your font larger. You can insert links here. You can insert tables, and you can mark this message as important. So when I click important, I get this red bar on the left, and I get the important in all caps red here at the top. So again, eye is drawn to color. So that color draws the student's eye. So you might have a quick message. First assignment due tomorrow. Just a quick message, whatever your message is. And so now when I click send, it looks a little different. It's bigger because I was able to change my font size. It has the red and it says important, and over on the right-hand side in the red bubble, it's got the exclamation point. So draws the eye of your class to this particular message. But there's even more that I can do here. I'm going to go in and edit this message. Across the top, it says new conversation and there's a caret. So there's a drop-down menu. I can turn this from a conversation into an announcement. And now look what happens. Bigger, bolder, better. I can give it a headline. Now I've got some color in the background. I can change that color by clicking on the color square. So if my school colors, if I want it to be in my school color, if it's available, I can do that. I can also choose a background. Microsoft has a few illustrations that you can choose that kind of liven things up, pep things up a bit. So you can scroll around until you find one that you like. I like this one, I think it's pretty. And then click done. And now I have a bigger banner. Again, it's an announcement now. I can still choose, do I want my students to be able to reply to this or no? So is this a conversation where my students can respond? Or is it just for me? Just an announcement, that's it, no one's responding. You can choose whether or not you wish to have, what you want your students to be able to do here. You can also post this into multiple channels at once. This is going to be a time saver, especially if you have more than one class team. If you're middle and high school and you teach 2, 3, 4, 5 periods of English and you don't want to type this message 5 times, even twice, if you click on post in multiple channels, now again, it looks like an email. You've got your 2 here. It's telling me it's in this current class in the general channel. And if I come to the right and click select channels, now I have all of those teams that I'm a part of or that I have created. And I can select a class and I can select a channel that I want this exact same message to go into. So now it's going to send this message here in this current class, and it's going to send it to my demo class, my other class. So now when I scroll down, remember I edited, so now it's a check mark. So I'm going to click done. So now it's been updated. And now I'm going to come back out and I'm going to go to that other class, and there's that very same message. Saving you time, helping you work more efficiently, so that you don't have to type the same message over and over and over again. Now, you might ask, well, what if I do an @ mention? There is a little difference here. If you do an @ mention, it will only work in the class that you're standing in. We're standing in Wenzler period 2. So if I do an @ mention, it's only going to give me access to this class. So I could go ahead and send it. I created it. I selected my channels. Now I'm editing it, and I'm going back and I'm going to do my @ mention. So that's fine. This class just got the message. But if I come back to my other class, they're not in Wenzler period 2. So they're not going to get that message. So it's a little different when you have an announcement that you're posting in multiple channels. The @ mention will only work for the class in which you're composing the message. So just keep that in mind. So usually if I'm going to do one of these, I don't do an @ mention. It's just easier not to. I then will do a reply, but this again has to be to each different class. I'll tell them, hey, check your messages or something. So if I do an announcement to multiple classes, I don't do an @ mention because it'll only work on the one class. So not only can you format your message so that it looks more like an email, feels more like an email, and you can create full announcements, you can attach files. So you can attach files that you've recently used, that you have in your teams and channels already, that you have in OneDrive. In this case, I linked my Google Drive over. So if you have a personal Google Drive or Dropbox or Box account and your administration has allowed it, you can link over so that you're not having to move files from one cloud storage to another. But again, that is up to your administration and their policies. You can also simply upload from a computer. So let me go here and there is one, that one I'm going to send. So I want to make sure, choose my upload file. Oh no, I have to do the message first. Let me try that again. Let's come back. So I want my students to read something. I'm going to click on to upload and then there we go. Now it should attach. It's going to make me, they've changed things. Yay. Oh, it's not letting me upload. There we go. Now it did. Teams is making changes on a daily basis. It's hard for us MLCs to keep it straight sometimes. And again, what fun would it be if everything worked the way we thought it was going to? Makes you keep on your toes. So don't worry if things don't seem to go right the first time. So I've attached this PDF. So everybody in my team, in this team, would be able to access and read it. So I just click the send button and now everyone can open it. They click on it and here it is. There's this PDF that I uploaded. All of the students or all of the members of the team are able to see it. And again, I'm still in purple. I haven't left Teams. I'm still here. So when I'm finished, I click close. So there, now I can attach files even for members of my team to be able to see. Question, will this show up elsewhere? Ooh, you're spoiling it. Hold on one second, we'll get there. So other things you can do, and again, as the teacher, you have total control over this, but I'm going to show you, and then I'll show you how to make these, how to manage these if you choose to. Your students and you can use emojis. They are all searchable by topic or theme. So they're all school appropriate. They are all heavily and strictly filtered, so you're not going to get anything inappropriate through Microsoft. You can add GIFs, which are just little short animations. And you can search by topic. Where's the one I like? Oh, I like this guy. He's cute. So you can search GIFs and have those put in, kind of adds a little whimsy and flair, which is always fun. Microsoft has all kinds of cute little stickers that the students are able to attach as well. If you're going to use Microsoft Stream, which is the video storage and sharing service, you can share videos directly into messages. You don't have to send your students out on a wild goose chase to find the video you want them to watch. You can add other apps in here. Remember what I said, that there are, anytime there's an ellipses, there's more. So depending on what your administration is choosing to use, you can add more apps to your messaging. So I've added Quizlet. I know some of you use Quizlet, and one of the big problems is making sure your students actually get to the right place. You can attach a Quizlet deck directly to a message. They simply click and it's there. They don't have to leave Teams to get it. Same thing with YouTube. You can post a YouTube video directly in the message. All they do is click play and go. They don't have to leave Teams to go look at the video. So the one thing that I do want to show, I'm going to push send on that one. So now there's my little GIF and sticker. One thing that I really enjoy, and I try to remember to do this often with my colleagues and people I work with, is we have a praise button. So you can recognize students in your team, members of your team, for outstanding work, behavior, for coaching, kind-heartedness. So you select a badge. You type in the name or names of students it doesn't have to be one at a time. You can't do a whole team, but you can mention a couple of students who did a great job and add a personalized notes so that they can see. And they're going to get this. This is what everybody on the team sees. Everybody. So what a great way to motivate each other and motivate your students. So when you hit send, again, what you're seeing on the screen now is exactly what your students are going to see when they log in. So they're going to see a personalized praise to these two students. And for some students, this might be motivation to do something outstanding, something that you take notice of. So use the praise as often as you remember to. It's something I've been trying to do. I think it's just a great way to notice the positives. And again, everybody in the class, in the team sees it. So those are some of the things that you can do just with messaging. We haven't even left the posts tab yet. So the question came, okay, what about that file that you uploaded? So I uploaded a file and it put it right there into my class materials. There it is. So when you post a file in a message, it's going to save into the files tab. And they've just changed it. When a teacher uploads a file, it automatically puts it to class materials. So it used to just go into the basics here, but now it's asking you to put it in class materials. So that's different. That's new. It's an update. So while we're here in files, let's take a look at everything that you can do. Again, we're still in purple. We're still in Teams. We haven't left. You'll notice there are some commands at the top. The first one being new. You can create folders. So if you are a self-contained classroom and you have multiple subjects that you're teaching, you can create a folder for each of your subjects and store files within each of those to keep yourself organized, just like your computer works the same way. But did you notice also when I click new, I can create documents directly in Teams. So if you're a Google Drive user, if you're a Google Classroom user, in order to add a document, you have to go to Google to create the document first, and then you can bring it into Google Classroom. I don't know if they've updated that, but that's the way it used to function. I don't have to leave Teams to create a Word document. I'm going to create one. I'm just going to call it demo. And I click create. Notice the color around the outside. Haven't left Teams yet, but now I'm in Word Online. So I can create my document where my students can edit we can create a collaborative document, and I can assign spaces in here for the students to type in or put pictures in, whatever. I can create the file here. I can open it in the desktop app directly from Teams. Of course, that will take me out of Teams. It'll take me to Word, but I'm not going to do that. But it's here directly in Teams. And when I close out, there it is. It's automatically in files. So I don't have to go to Word and create the file. I don't have to go to Excel and create a spreadsheet or a PowerPoint or a OneNote or a form. I can do it directly from within Teams. I don't got to leave, which is a huge time saver. Of course, I can upload files and folders from my computer that I already have, so I don't have to worry about recreating the wheel anywhere. I can download anything. So if my students were to upload a file here, I can download that file. And here's where I can add my cloud storage. So if you have an existing SharePoint site that your team is currently working on, you can link over to that SharePoint site and grab those files. You don't have to download them and re-upload them anywhere. If you use Dropbox, and again, these three, Dropbox, Ignite, and Google Drive, that's all based on what your administration, the permissions that your district has allowed. So they may or may not show up, and that's unique to each individual district. So that's how I added my Google Drive. So I sign in, and then I can choose folders to place into my team classroom. Students do not get access to my full Google Drive when I link the account. They only get access to whatever I put from Google into here, but I don't have to leave Teams to do it. Everything in one spot makes it so much easier. Yes, collaboration. Yes, so if you create a document, they are able to edit it. You can move it. You can move it by clicking on, again, ellipses means more. Click ellipses, click move. You can move it to class materials. Class materials is read only. It shuts it off so that the students can't change anything. So yes, if you leave it in the general area of files, it's editable by the students. You can open it in Word and change that so that they can only look at it. So just keep that in mind. So move it to class materials. If you've created something and you don't want your students to change it, put it in class materials. Let's see, what else can we do? Well, that's pretty much it for files. It's pretty simple. You have a SharePoint site where all of these files and folders live. So you can go to SharePoint if you use SharePoint and do that. Across the top, we also have a class notebook. Now that is a whole separate training. That's an hour by itself minimum. So a class notebook is a digital 3-ring binder. I'm happy to provide resources on it. We can, I know at the buyback day, we've got Microsoft Store members who are going to be teaching how to use OneNote in grades pre-K 2, 3, 5. I'm not sure, I can't remember the grade breakdown, but youngers, middles, and olders. So you can see how to set up a class notebook and ways to use it based on grade levels. So check that out if you do want to have one-on-one or small group training. Let me know, and I do have pre-recorded webinars on it if you want to watch it at your own pace too as well. So that is available, but it's a beast in and of itself. So I only just say hello to it here. In 201, we're going to really go into assignments and grades because that's where you're going to spend a lot of your time. So I do that as a whole separate training, which follows us in about 45 minutes. You'll also notice in the channel that there's a plus sign. So you can add tabs. Now, why would you want to add a tab? Well, if you've never used Wakelet, Wakelet is a place where you can collect resources that your kids can then have access to. So you can post a Wakelet here. You could link to a website that you use often. So let's say you use Wonderopolis. Do I have to put the W's to do that? And then, oh, wait a second, wrong one. I can read, I promise. Call it Wonderopolis. Yeah, see, it used to just pick it up for me. I'm not sure why it's not now. To do the HTTPS. All right, so once I've got the address actually correctly in, then it allows me to save. Let's hope I've spelled everything correctly. And then it adds it as a tab. So if there's a tab, if there's a website that your students go to often, like if you use Discovery Education, you can post those here. You don't have to send them on that goose chase out into the wide web. It says it's not loading correctly. I can click here. So if I click here, it gives me an option. My network must be a bit slow, so it's not loading, but that's okay because I can click go to site and it's going to take me out to that website anyway. So if it doesn't seem to work, you still have access. Your students can still get there. They're not kind of left high and dry. So basically, you can add tabs for a variety of different reasons. And notice there's a drop-down menu. When you're done with it, you can remove it. You can rename it. So I'm just going to remove it. I don't need Wonderopolis there anymore. So if you're doing a project and you need a website for the project, you can add it. And then you can remove it when the project is done so you don't have hundreds and hundreds of tabs across the top. Okay, so a question came up. What was the name of the app? Wonderopolis is a website. It's actually not an app. So it's just Wonderopolis. And if you've not used it for your little ones, it's fantastic. Let's see. Other question, can students work on a fillable PD document? Yes, a fillable PDF, yes, they can. We'll talk about that in assignments and grades. Okay, so what I want to cover, sorry, thank you. Euphemia said, not the Wonderopolis, the way you were able to add the name or link to the top. So what you're gonna do in order to add a new tab is look for the plus sign. And when you click plus, you'll see tons of apps that you might need. So you could add a Flipgrid if you use Flipgrid. You can add a PowerPoint that you want your students to watch. You can add a Word document you want your students to see. You could add a stream video, Wakelet, and there are hundreds and hundreds of other apps, and we'll come into those when we go into managed channels. There's hundreds of apps, all searchable by content area. Let me come back here. Go back one. There we go. So those are the basics for navigating within the team. So you're going to have channels here on the left, which we're going to go into next. You communicate and share and collaborate in the big space in the middle. So remember I had said if you see ellipses, it means there's something more. So I'm going to click right across from my team name. There's ellipses. So I'm going to click on it, and I have some options here. We're going to choose manage team. You can choose to add a channel or a member here. You can even leave your team. So you change classrooms, you put a new teacher in, you can leave the team so that you don't have to see it anymore. When you edit the team, you can change its name and picture right here. You can get a link to the team, which I cover in 201 in meetings. You can add tags to the team to help students find it, help other people find your team. So I'm going to start here with manage team because we can do the channels and members from manage team. So when I click on it, it starts me off in the members section. I'm the owner, I created it. Over across from my picture and name, there's a drop-down menu. I can demote myself to member. I can only become a member if I bring somebody else up to owner. So it won't let you become a member if there's no owner. Someone has to own the team. So that's going to be you. I can click on members and guests, and I can see all of my students who are going to be here. When I hover on a student, I'll be able to see the student's email address. I can send a chat message, a private chat message to that student. I can send that student an email to this account. Here's that private message. It only goes to that student. Nobody else sees it. So if you do need to send a private message, the easiest way, ellipses, manage team, members, and then hover. That's the best way if you need to do a quick private message to the student. Here's somebody had asked, what if the students are being a little obnoxious and they won't stop posting? Here's where you can mute your students. So these two students won't be able to post any messages. They can read everything. They can see everything, but they can't post anything. So again, if after a while, the novelty will wear down, I promise. It won't be such a big deal anymore, but you still will have, one or two who like to, push a few buttons. You can mute them. That way they're not constantly posting messages and distracting everybody else. So again, they can read and see everything, they just can't post. They're also given roles here. So your students are going to be members. You can add additional people to your team right here in the purple add member box. So if you get a student and you have to get that student into your classroom immediately because you are working and that student needs access, you can add that student as long as he or she has the email address provided by the district. But you can also add guests to your team. So I'm going to type in my personal email. So there's my personal email account. Notice it says guest next to it. So I can be added as a personal guest, but I don't have the same privileges that the owner and members do. I'm limited. So you might need a guest to come into your team if you want to have a guest speaker. If you're taking a field trip, that you want to have somebody, a virtual field trip, and you want to have somebody be able to answer questions, you might want to add that person as a guest. So what's the difference between, or how do you know if someone's a guest versus a member? So your tenant, which is the @email address you use, so @TUSD.net, that's your organization. So anybody who has the email address ending of @TUSD.net, they're going to be members or owners. people who don't have at TUSD.net, I'm at gmail.com, they can only be guests. So guest permissions are very limited, what a guest can do, and that's for your safety and security and the privacy of your students and work. The guests can have limited access to what is going on in a team. They can't check out your files, they can't see your grades, they can't see the assignments, they can post messages and respond to messages. And if you give them permission, if you send them a file, they can see a file, but it's very limited. So you can add guests to your team. Now, if I was doing a field trip and then I'm done and all of our responding, our talking, our chatting is finished, I can remove the guest by clicking the X, and then the guest can no longer join the team, can't come into the team any longer. I can do that with students as well. So I can delete students as they leave the class. And then if that was a mistake, you just have to add them back in. So that's where you can add additional members. Next, we have channels. And right now, we're only given one channel, but you can add additional channels by clicking the Add Channel button. Then you need to give it a name. So for example, again, if I have a self-contained classroom and I teach multiple subjects, I might want to have a channel for each subject. And then I do want this channel to show up in the channel lineup on the left for all of my students. I just want it to automatically be there. They don't have to do anything. I click Add, and then my ELA channel is going to show up right there. When the channel's created, I get posts, I get my own files tab, I get a wiki, a blank piece of paper that we can collaborate and take notes on together. I can add additional tabs just like in the general channel. I get all the same communications, but it's all about ELA in this channel. Now, what if I teach ELA by itself? I'm a single subject teacher. So let's come back in and I'm going to go back to channels. So what kinds of channels might I want to create? Well, when I was in high school, I taught To Kill a Mockingbird. So I might want to have a channel just for all things To Kill a Mockingbird. Or if I'm teaching irony, although I would probably do it larger and do figurative language. So I might have a channel that's all about figurative language. So it can be content specific, it can be thematic, you could do channels by month, you can do it however you want. There's no right, no wrong. And if I'm not happy with the channel, if I think of something better later, notice when I highlight the channel, again, I get those ellipses. If I click on the more options, I can just get rid of the channel. Everything in the channel goes away too, but if I'm not pleased with it, I don't have to be stuck with a channel I don't like. So anything I create, I can change. I can even delete the whole team. I can click on the ellipses and delete everything in the team. So if I get it set up and I think, yeah, that ain't what I wanted, that's okay. I delete the team, I can start over. So keep that in mind, play around with it. Create a dummy team for yourself. Look at what it can do, play with it, see what it does. That'll help you figure out what you want and what you need. So create a sandbox for yourself. So we've looked at adding different channels. Now we can come into settings. This is where you're going to look at what your members and guests can do. So within settings, if you accidentally delete a team, can you get it back with the same contents? You'd have to go check with your IT department if it was archived. If it's archived, you should be able to. That's not the same I don't know if all the content will be there though. Sorry. I don't know if all the content will be deleted permanently or not. So that would have to be something to talk about with your IT department. Good question. So if I click on member permissions, you are automatically, as an owner, you can delete any message. You can decide whether your students can delete their own messages. They can't delete your messages. They can't delete another student's messages. Remember, each student is a member. Do you want them to delete their own message? I would say probably yes. Do you want them to be able to edit their own message? They can't edit yours. They can't edit anyone else's. They can only work with their own messages. And then you have some other things that are by default, no, but you could choose. Do you want your students to add those tabs, to hit the plus sign and put a tab up, or add custom apps, add and remove apps delete whole channels. I'd probably keep the rest of this as no. I don't want my students to delete my ELA channel. So I'd probably leave it just with the bottom 3 checked, which is the default. Then you have your guest permissions. Guests can't do anything. They can't create any channels. They're not going to be able to delete messages. They can't do much of anything. Again, they're there to look at you and they're there to post. So they can post messages and interact with your team, but they don't really get any permission to do anything. You can decide with @mentions, do you want your team, your students, to be able to mention an entire team? So in this case, @Wensler PD2. Do you want them to be able to just mention a whole channel like @ELA? You decide. It's defaulted that yes, they can use those. I'm going to come back to team code in a second. I see that there are a bunch of questions. They're all about meetings, and we're going to cover those in 201. Here's where you can decide, do you want those GIFs to be able to be used or not? If they become a distraction, if the stickers become a distraction, get rid of them. Students don't get access to them. They can't use the emojis, the GIFs, or the stickers. GIFs are strictly filtered for content. So there's not going to be anything inappropriate. So Microsoft has heavy, strict rules on what can be used, but you can turn it off so that the students don't even see them. We talked about this team code. So here we are, here's the team code. Let's say you're creating a PLC and there's a large number of people in your PLC. Say there's like 40, 50 people. I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to have to add individual members to a team by typing their email address and clicking on them. That can take a long time and it's not efficient. So if they have the same email address as you, if they're in your organization, then you can use the team code. So I clicked on generate, I highlight, I copy. Come back. I'm going to click on join or create team again. Remember I said I was going to come back here? Here it is. This is where I would enter that code and then I would join that team. That saves you time in typing email addresses for people you want on your team. It only works if they're in your organization. So if they have a different email address than you, you have to manually enter them in the team. It only works for you guys for @TUSD.net members. So basically, the last thing I want to talk about is settings, and then we're going to take questions. I'll come back through and we'll talk about that. So up here at the top next to your profile picture, if you didn't put a picture, you've got initials, that's fine too. You're going to click on it. You can set your status message, which shows all across M365. So right now it says I'm presenting, so my colleagues know I'm probably not going to respond to them. So they'll wait. I can set a status message where I type a, hey, I'm in a meeting message, and anyone who tries to click on me or anyone who looks at my availability will see this message. Here's where all of those saved messages went. So you can see I have a few saved. So here's that one that we created today, right there. So it's saving all my messages, and I can get back to them much more quickly than trying to scroll and figure it out. Here's the part you're going to want to set up, and these are your settings. Your students can do the very same thing for themselves. You click settings. You can choose the layout and the theme, and you can decide, they've added quite a few here, wow. You can talk about the application, whether you want this to automatically start when the computer's turned on, keep the app running even if you close it. So things like that, register Teams as the chat app for Office. You may not have all of these Office application choices. It depends on your IT and administration. But here's the big one, notifications. You get to decide for yourself, and your students can decide for themselves, how do you want to be notified when things are happening in your team? So if someone does an @mention of you personally, how do you want to get notified? Banner and email? So the banner is a little purple thingy down here in the bottom that says, hey, you got a message. And an email comes in that says, hey, you got a message. Do you just want the banner or no notification at all? You have to just remember to go check in. So you decide how you want to be notified for personal mentions, when a whole channel is mentioned, or when the whole team is mentioned. For messaging like chat messages, how do you want to be notified if someone's chatting? Mine's off because I tend to get distracted with all the little purple pop-ups at the bottom when I'm presenting. So I just keep mine turned off. So you'll go through, and this is all unique to you. It doesn't set the notifications for all of your team. It's just for you. So you decide what's the best way for you to be notified. So do that first. You can always come back in by clicking here at your picture and clicking settings. So let me see how we've done here. So we've done notifications. We actually did tabs a little earlier. There's one last thing to do. A little bit of fun with analytics. I'm going to come back to my team here, and I'm going to click back on my team ellipses and go to manage team one more time. There's an app here, or a tab here called analytics. So you can actually see what's been going on in your team. Of course, there's not going to be anything available because I just created this team. Let me show you what it looks like if I have access. I may not have access on this team. We'll see. Right there. So this is what it will look like when you've used it for a little while. So you'll see how many people are using it. This is just in the last 7 days. I could look at the last 3 months, and it will tell me how many posts have gone on and how many people, how many replies, mentions, reactions. It shows me my active users, the number of meetings held in this team, and engagement by posts, replies, mentions, or reactions. That's all channels. I can look at, let's do the MIE Expert Summit. Yeah, that one's kind of dead because we went there and then we're done. Let's go questions. So here's questions. We have a tab, a channel called questions, where we're asking questions to help each other. So I can look at this analytics and I can see how engaged my students are. And that will help me to make sure that they're using Teams. Because if I've got what I had, if my analytics after a few weeks of school, if it looks like this, nobody's using Teams. And so then I need to figure out why, what's going on. So you can use analytics to help yourself. Private chats. Oh, good question. Can we see private chats? Depending on whether or not your administration, your district is allowing students to chat with each other, if they conduct a private chat, if it's in a team, they can't do a private chat. You're the owner, you see all, you are God in your classroom or a goddess in your classroom. So you don't have to worry about that. So really the question is, well, what about outside of Teams? And I'm going to tell you what I tell myself as an educator, they're already doing that anyway. So we can only control, right, what's going on in Teams. And since you are the owner, there are no private chats between students in Teams. Yay. So you don't have to worry about it. So you can have private conversations with individual students, but the students can't do that with each other. So you don't have to worry about bullying within the team. So that was a fantastic question. Does the banner notification stay up until you notice it? It stays up for a few seconds and then it goes away, but I have mine selected to email. So then I get an email notification and when I check my email, it'll say your friends are trying to reach you. And I know to go in and double check. Also, notice up here at I didn't mean to do that. Notice up here at the top that next, this is my organization. Notice there's a 3. That means there's 3 things I need to check. I'm a guest in Microsoft's account, and there are 3 posts that people have done. So I'm getting notified that there are things I need to go see in a different group, a different organization. I have 2 chat messages I need to see here in my own. So here's one. This is from Siobhan. So it shows me here what's going on and helps alert me that there are things I need to see. So you'll see these same notifications out here. The banner will come in and then it will go away. Your email will stay, of course, until you delete it. You're more than welcome to screenshot. No problem whatsoever, Susie. I don't have a problem with that. Can a channel be a small group that paras work with? Oh, yeah, welcome to Teams 201. We're going to cover private channels there. And let's see, how do parents get the training to use Teams? Well, that would be up to you guys. I can schedule, we can do a parent training night. Yeah, for the young ones, especially the little ones, they're going to need some assistance. So we can set up a parent training night. You guys can set up a parent training night and run through this. I know that there are lots of YouTube videos. I don't know the quality of them, but you know, it's always worth doing a video search to see what's out there for Teams guides for parents and just see if there's something ready-made that you can share with parents, but then also schedule a parent night so that you can help your parents. That's another way that you can do that. Can this screen be bigger? It can on your side. So here's how you do that. I'm going to be covering this in Teams 201, but here's what you're meeting. You click on ellipses means more and you can enter full screen, and then you can see a bigger screen on your computer. So it just depends on the size of your screen that you are using. Okay, let me see. I think I got everything. Lizetta, yes, it is being recorded. It will be given to Tom and Melissa so that they can, I have to do it on YouTube, so they will get a link to this recording. Also in the chat, and I'll show you in the chat, way at the beginning, like way at the beginning. Yeah, it's gonna take a while. Oh, let me just go over here, it's easier. In the chat of this particular training, you can scroll to the very top. It just might take a while. Yep, we'll just get there eventually. Ooh, we're close. We're very close. There we go. So at the top, you have access to me, my website where I have all of my webinars posted. I've also posted a pre-recorded version of this, which is also on my website, but I posted the direct link here for the 101. Here's the direct link to the 201. So you can access all of my PD, and then there are 2 here that are specific to today's training that are pre-recorded. So you'll have 2 pre-recorded plus the 2 recorded from today. So yes, you will have plenty of ways that you can get assistance or re-see this at your own pace too. Because you know, with a video, it's nice. You can pause me, make me shut up, and then you can do. So let's see, was there anything? Oh, good, Brian, thank you. If you post an announcement, will it notify all members like Annette mentioned? Nope. If you just post the announcement, it's just an announcement, or you post a message, it's just there for people to see when they log in. So if you want the notification, you have to do the @mention. Great question. Was there anything else that you'd like me to go over? That way we can have about a 15-minute break or so. Feel free to come off of mute if you have a quick question. I'm happy to go over something.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
I thought I heard you say something towards the beginning of the training about how our admin is going to be setting up the class initially. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, you were breaking up a little. Could you repeat?
Did you say something about how the admin at our sites are going to be setting up initially? Or so, I thought I heard you say something at the beginning of the training about that.
You'd have to check with them. I don't know what your presets are going to be.
Okay.
It's individual for each district. So I'm just kind of giving you a basic broad spectrum overlook of it. And then individually, each district decides what it's going to look like for them based on your needs.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I wish I had all that information, but unfortunately, I don't have access to that.
I have a question.
Okay.
You talked about, because this is very difficult. I can hardly see anything. It's so small. But you said you could make it full screen of what you're showing. How do I do that?
So within Teams, let me get back to my, so you have, sorry, go ahead.
So I go to Teams.
So you are going to come back into your meeting screen, whatever screen it is that is showing the meeting, and you'll look for this bar along the bottom. Uh-oh. I'll continue on. Once you click the ellipses, you can enter full screen. Of course, you can always re-watch the recording and the pre-recorded videos, and you can put them on your computer and maximize the screen that way as well. So it may have been small right now. When we get started on the next one, I'll go over again how to make sure that you're in full screen so that if you have a smaller screen, you can make it bigger so that you can see a little more clearly. I hope that helps. Let's see, how do I access the recording from today? It will be, I have to process it through Stream, download it, put it into PowerPoint, create the video, and upload it to YouTube and share the link. So it'll be a few hours, sorry, but I will get it to you. You do have the pre-recorded available immediately, but yes, I will get that done today. Do all teachers have owner status? Yes, absolutely, you're the owner. So anything, you have full owner rights. Students are always members. You can make them an owner. I'm not sure why you would need to, but you could make a student an owner. So if there was some reason to do that, you have that option as well. Let's see. Are we going to do pre-recorded lessons and post for students? Yep, that is 201. We're going to talk about assignments and grading and meetings and all that fun stuff. That's an hour plus on its own, which is why I do it to 101 and 201. Is there a team for today? Will I please send the recording link to our registered emails? I don't have access to all of those. It would be easier if you would go into the chat and right mouse click and copy the link and paste it into your browser. I have 112 of you, if that's not too much to ask.
Speaking about that, so I'm in chat and I scrolled all the way up so that I could grab that link, and it only goes up to when I join the meeting. Is there a way to get the link again?
Yes, let me repost it. Thanks for clarifying that. That's helpful. Yeah, let me grab it. Oh, where are we? Shouldn't be that far. There we go. One, and get back to this one. Go away. Now I'm having issues. There we go. That's what I wanted. Chat. Okay, there's the teams 101. Let me get 201. And 201. And 201. All right, so both of those are now relinked. You should be able to have access to them. Thank you for that. I appreciate it.
I had a question. I came a little late because I couldn't find the link that you sent, but I finally found it. But anyway, the chatting, as far as chatting goes, is there a way that you can turn off the chatting? I mean, was that in settings that you turn off the chatting for all your students, and then later turn it back on so that after maybe you can ask for questions or you can allow chatting at that point? I just think it would be very distracting to have chatting going on while I'm teaching.
Yeah.
Especially if it's inappropriate, you know, it might be hard for me to see what's going on the same time as I'm teaching.
Right, I understand. A couple of things. No, you can't stop the chat. So what I do is I know that this is extra, I get it. What I do is I actually have a second computer set up and I'm logged in and I keep the chat open on one computer and I'm teaching on another. So I'm constantly looking at the chat. I just glance over periodically. If I notice that there is somebody who's misbehaving, you can remove them from the meeting. So here I am, I'm in the participants window, the people window. And again, I get those ellipses. And Diana, I'm going to pick on you for a second. I won't actually do it. You can remove the student from the meeting so that he or she gets that message that they are being inappropriate, and you can click them out. The good news is anything that they chat has their name attached to it. They can't come in and do it anonymously. If anyone joins anonymously, means they got the link from somebody and they don't belong, you can kick them out and they can't come back in. Does
So
that help?
where do you go for that again?
So here in the meeting, and you've got your toolbar, and you're going to click on Show Participants.
Oh, okay. Show
And then,
participants.
yeah, just head over to the microphone and click the ellipses, the same way that you can also lower people's hands. So once your student asks a question, you can lower their hand, and then the next hand goes up and you can see it at the top of the list. And then, yeah, you can remove anybody. So, and we'll be talking more about meetings in 201.
Okay, great.
Let's see.
I can't do that right now.
Do you have any plans to update the number of members visible in a meeting? We're going to talk meetings in 201. So no worries on there. We will be going there. Can you react to someone's comment in the chat box? Yes, you can. All you have to do is hover and notice the same reaction box shows up. So you can like, love, laugh, surprise, frown, or get angry at them. So students can react to each other. They can respond to each other as well within the chat. But again, their names are attached to everything. So normally they're pretty good about it. They figure out really quickly. They can't hide. I guess that's a question for Tom. How do you record it? I tried to kick someone out to test it out, but it wouldn't let me. You can't do that because I'm the organizer. So I'm the person, you guys are all attendees. So attendees cannot kick each other out, which means students as attendees to a meeting, they cannot kick each other out. They cannot mute each other. They cannot kick you out.